Hello, wonderful people. I am just wholeheartedly excited and grateful to be here today. I did just want to say a major thank you to the entire AnyLogic team for allowing us to be here, allowing me and DaVita to present. To be very candid with you all, DaVita, we haven't fully finished creating our first demo model, but I hope that we can talk through our year-long journey that we've had and building a simulated dialysis clinic. But as is tradition within DaVita, anytime we speak externally, we give context of who we are through an About Me slide. So my name is Jake Malera. I'm a very recent graduate at CU Boulder, in which I studied finance and accounting. And for all of the college football fans in the room, you know I was absolutely ecstatic after this weekend when our team, the CU Buffaloes, beat TCU. Additionally, I have the amazing opportunity to live in Denver, Colorado with my 3 roommates. In my free time, I really just love to read. My 2 favorite books of recent past was, just read The Empire of Pain, that goes over the Sackler family, who are the ones who created OxyContin, and in large part had to do with the opioid epidemic. Additionally, I read I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy, who was an iCarly star. And it was very nostalgic because I watched a lot of iCarly growing up, but also really went into a very complicated relationship she had with her mom. Additionally, in my free time, I'm currently training to do an Ironman in Australia next May, so there's a lot of pain that I have in front of me before that point. But at DaVita, the reason I'm talking to you all today is I'm an analyst on our Ops Design team, and I'm actually the only teammate at DaVita who has working understanding and knowledge of how to utilize AnyLogic. And I wish I could use AnyLogic all of my day, but the other part of my day, I'm focusing on our patient care technician role, and how do we optimize that and elevate that role so we can empower the best dialysis care possible. And what I want to run you through all today is, who is DaVita and what is Ops Design? After that, what is our problem and how are we thinking that AnyLogic could potentially be used to fix our problem that we're not being able to rapidly test our ideas fast enough? But with that, one of the common threads you're going to hear throughout today's presentation is dialysis. So what is that? Well, that is what 19-year-old me was frantically asking himself when the recruiter from DaVita asked me that very question. And while I was internally kicking and screaming to come up with the answer, what I wish I knew then, but I know now, is that dialysis is a form of life-sustaining care, and is care for the nearly 800,000 Americans who are unfortunately suffering from end-stage kidney disease. For all of us who have healthy kidneys, our kidneys play a very vital role. They're what is able to filter waste from our blood in the form of urine production. Every time your heart beats, 20% of that blood goes directly to your kidney. And in the span of 5 minutes, our kidneys are able to filter all of our blood in our body, which is absolutely staggering to me. Additionally, our kidneys have the other function, and that they're able to control the blood pressure within our body, and through an enzyme our kidneys produce, they are able to signal to the body when it's time to create more red blood cells. But unfortunately for dialysis patients, they have excess fluid because their kidneys are no longer able to adequately filter the waste from their blood. Additionally, some of the other functions I was mentioning are no longer adequately functioning properly, whereas the body is having poor control of our body's blood pressure for dialysis patients, and they have a very low red blood cell count, meaning that they're anemic because the body's no longer producing that enzyme. So for dialysis patients, the reason that it's required is when their kidney is no longer able to filter waste from the blood. And what we're doing in dialysis is we're taking off the excess fluid, and then we're applying medications to control the high blood pressure that our patients often have and the anemia that our patients have. And to truly showcase this care is so life-sustaining, dialysis patients unfortunately cannot survive more than a couple of weeks without having our care. And that is where DaVita comes in. We are a leading Fortune 500 healthcare company who serves over 200,000 dialysis patients through a coalition of care teams who are truly heroes. And a very important part for us as an organization is we want our care to be accessible. For 90% of our patients, a clinic was within 10 miles of them. And that's really, really important to us. And what we know is for our patient population, they are some of, unfortunately, the sickest patients and most complex patients in the entire healthcare industry. Whereas our patients on average are dealing with 2 additional chronic diseases beyond their end-stage kidney disease. And as you can imagine, to be able to deal with and take care of such a complex patient population, we need to have large interdisciplinary care teams. For example, each of our patients are linked with a social worker who helps to address some of the social determinants of health. Additionally, each of our patients are linked with a dietitian who helps our patients manage the very complex diet that dialysis requires. And something that is very notable about dialysis compared to almost any other healthcare specialty is we see our patients all the time. Our patients are treated in our centers on average 3 times a week for 4 hours per treatment. To put this in context, you likely see your primary care provider for 30 minutes a year, if that. We see our patients on average 1,200 times more. And what we truly believe as an organization is that we are able to impact our patients' health far beyond just dialysis care, but the holistic health of our patients. However, as you can imagine, with care that is so high touch, so complex, and requires such large interdisciplinary care teams, it requires a high level of ops excellence. And that is where my team, Ops Design, comes in. Ops Design, we're a team of lean healthcare professionals who apply lean healthcare principles into our clinics and further disrupt the dialysis industry by applying design thinking in our ever-ending pursuit of building the dialysis clinic of the future. And we are doing this in our entire team's goal as we want to create more free time in our teammates' days so that they can be able to adequately address patient events that are unexpected that come up through the day. Example of a patient event is that a patient may just need to talk to someone so they could talk to a nurse so they feel supported through treatment. Or in the very rare case that a patient is bleeding for a prolonged time after treatment, our patient care technicians have the adequate time to be able to wholeheartedly deal with that situation. And the really good news is that we have a lot of ideas on Ops Design on how we're going to tackle this problem and create more free time for our teammates. However, we need a way to be able to test our ideas that is not going to disrupt the delivery of high-quality dialysis care. And the issue that we're facing is that testing all of our ideas in-center without prioritizing would be logistically challenging. It'd be a nightmare. It gives me the heebie-jeebies just thinking about it. We're a very small, but I do want to add mighty team of 8 teammates. Additionally, testing is very disruptive. It could be disruptive. A lot of the ideas that we have center around changing our patients' schedules. And we only would ever change our patients' schedules if we truly believe it will improve the level of care, because as you can imagine, our patients need transportation to and from our dialysis clinics, and they also have other care appointments likely that they have throughout the day. So we would only be considering changing those schedules if we knew that this was going to improve their experience at DaVita. And this is why we're so stoked about AnyLogic, because we really believe that we're going to be able to utilize AnyLogic to rapidly test and prioritize which ideas we should test in center. And as I mentioned, I have absolutely loved this conference. DaVita, we're very early on in our simulation days, but this conference has given me a ton of energy and a ton of excitement to come back to Denver, Colorado to test some of the ideas and to further build out our models. But starting with one of the work streams that we've identified would really benefit from the use of the AnyLogic software is our scheduling work stream. And the reason why is we truly hypothesize that our teammates and patient schedules drive the operations of our clinics for that day. And the reason why is we know that there's core parts of the day that have very specific actions our teammates must take. For example, when a patient is getting put onto treatment, so they're about to start treatment, our patient care technicians are needing to connect our patients to the dialysis machine. And for our RNs, they're needing to round for every single patient to ensure that they have a pre-treatment assessment done and that there's no abnormalities that would stop us from starting treatment. And what we're thinking about utilizing AnyLogic for is figuring out what is that time interval between patients that we should be scheduling so that we give our care teams enough time to address any unexpected events that come up. The second idea that we're really excited about testing within AnyLogic in our scheduling workstream is coming up with what is the way that teammates should be collaborating. Today, for context, one patient care technician, they are attached or they are taking care of 4 patients. and they're in charge of all the patient put-ons and takeoffs within their pod. However, we as a team theorized there may be a better way actually of doing that. Whereas we had combined 2 pods of patients, so now there's 2 PCTs working together to take care of a set of 8 patients. And the reason we think this may be better is if there is an unexpected patient event that comes up, one of the teammates who have idle time, they can go address that patient event, while the other teammate ensures the continual delivery of dialysis care for all the others. Because what we see in our current way of working is that if a patient event happens in a pod of just 1 PCT, that may delay patient put-ons and takeoffs for the rest of the day. And so the way that we're thinking about modeling this within AnyLogic is we want to build 2 models. The first model is operating as we are today, where we have 1 PCT taking care of all the patient put-ons and takeoffs in their pod. And we're simulating the random patient events utilizing probabilistic select output blocks. And we connect the select output block, if it is true, that recognizes a patient event, to a delay block. And then we want to juxtapose that and compare that to the working pattern on the bottom. What if we have 2 PCTs? Could they be more adequately addressing those situations? And will we see more timely patient put-ons and takeoffs? And will we see any more additional teammate free time because they're able to collaborate and get the benefits of working together in a team? So that's our first work stream that we're really excited about utilizing AnyLogic for. Our second use case for this is looking into flow optimization. There are core parts of dialysis care that always need to happen. For example, our RNs at the start of treatment, they are always going to need to do a pre-treatment assessment. They're going to need to prep and administer meds, and they're going to need to chart for that patient. But as you can imagine, the sequencing of the work is tremendously important, because what we see today is our teammates, for our RNs, they're walking 4 to 5 miles in one shift. 4 to 5 miles, that is staggering. That's over 11,000 steps. And if our teammates aren't thinking strategically of how to sequence the work, it can be tremendously exhausting for them. Because what I see oftentimes is that our RNs, for instance, they may go walk to the patient station to conduct a pre-treatment assessment, walk back to the RN station to prep meds, walk back to the patient station to administer those meds, and then walk back to the RN station to chart. And this may not seem like a lot, but when you consider the fact that our RNs are in their shift are combined to look after the care for 12 patients, and there's 3 sets of patients that they look after in a day, so 36 patients, this extra movement adds a lot of time walking in their day, and time that they could have actually been spending talking to their patients and improving care outcomes. So what we're wanting to leverage AnyLogic for is figuring out what is the right flow of work. What is the right cycle for our teammates to be working in? Because we think there is definitely a future where we could standardize and make more of a standard flow for how our teammates are thinking of working through their day. And I must say, I'm tremendously excited about this. As I mentioned at the beginning, part of my role on Ops Design is looking into our patient care technician role. And what I'm currently looking at is how do I create a patient care technician care cycle? And I think one of the really exciting things and what I want to showcase to our leadership team is not only do these ideas work on paper, not only have I validated them in clinics with our subject matter experts, but I've also simulated it, and we've seen really amazing simulated results. So there's tremendous excitement at DaVita for this possibility. And I want to end off with some key lessons that we've learned from admittedly a year where we've definitely had a lot of ups and downs with our use of AnyLogic. And we've made a ton of mistakes. And for those of you in the room who are more experienced modelers, this may just be a good reminder. But for those of you who are just initially starting to think about utilizing simulation software, I hope that this can be truly helpful for you. And the first thing that I would really recommend is define your scope early on. When we first started trying to build an AnyLogic, we wanted to build the world. We wanted to build the greatest dialysis simulated model the world has ever seen. But what that happened to us was we made our model overly complex with a lot of nice to haves, but not it was must have. And I think as we look going backwards, really what we're now focusing on is what is our business question? What are we trying to answer? And what is the minimal amount of modeling we need to do to be able to answer that question? And then we can always build on from there. Additionally, the second part that we've really learned is that DaVita, as a healthcare company, we don't honestly have too much experience when it comes to software development. A lot of the ways that we project manage that works really well for in-center testing did not work as well within AnyLogic. And what we started to utilize was we started to utilize Agile and user stories. And user stories, for those of you who are unaware, are absolutely great. User stories are a way to write in real human words what you want the model to do. And in human words, how do we know, as our acceptance criteria, what we wanted the model to do? It actually did that. And this has been so imperative for me and my team. We've been so much more tactile after utilizing Agile and user stories, and it's helped us communicate throughout the organization. Because as I mentioned, DaVita, we're a healthcare company. We don't have as much experience in software development, so this has really helped level the playing field for us all. So to be clear, the 2 recommendations I'd have to all of you, if you are just starting within AnyLogic, is define your scope. Define what your must-haves, and have a development plan that works for you. I'd be more than happy to share any of the user stories, resources that we've been able to build over this past year. But I did just want to end off by saying thank you so much. This is such a surreal feeling to be able to represent DaVita at a stage like this, and I'm wholeheartedly excited to answer any questions at this time.
As someone who's new to AnyLogic, can you define the Agile piece again?
Yeah, and thank you so much, Natalie, for asking a question. So, yes, Agile for us, it's just a way of thinking about and being strategic about how we're planning the work within AnyLogic. So it's a methodology for project planning. So essentially what it is we're looking at developing in sprints. So we'll define what work we want to get done, and then in 2 weeks, we're going to try to get all of that work done. And it's just a way for us to structure the work better, because a lot of the project plans we're using that for more traditional work just was not working out for us. Hopefully that was responsive.
Hello, on your left. Great presentation, very interesting stuff. I was wondering if you have any preliminary modeling results or where you're at in your modeling process to solve this problem. Yeah,
we don't have any results yet, but where we've gotten to is we're super, super close to having a functioning model. We have all the teammate movement that we wanted. The movement was really important for us. I think another presenter was talking about it was really important for our leadership to be able to see how teammates were moving. So that took us a really long time, because not only were we needing the model behind the scenes work, but also the showing of it. So we're about there, and then I think our next steps is we're going to start to try to validate to see if our model is working the way we want to, and then we can start doing some of the testing to see that, as we were mentioning, the teammate collaboration, are we seeing different impacts from those 2 ways of working? Well, I think that's all the questions. Thank you all so much. I had a great experience.